Vayera. First reading. Abraham. Chesed. The Lord appeared to Abraham in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and saw 3 men standing nearby. And when he saw them, he ran from the entrance of his tent to meet them and bowed himself to the ground, and said, My Lord, if I have found favor in your eyes, do not pass, I pray you, from your servant. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under this tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread and comfort your hearts. After that you will pass on, for you have come to your servant. And they said, So do as you have said. And Abraham hastened into the tent to Sarah and said, Quick, make ready 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes on the hearth. And Abraham ran to the herd and fetched a good and tender calf, and gave it to a young man, and he hurried to prepare it. And he took butter and milk, and the calf which he had prepared, and set these before them. And he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. And they asked him, Where is your wife Sarah? And he said, There, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return to you about this time next year, and Sarah your wife will have a son. And Sarah was listening at the entrance to the tent, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and Sarah was past the age of childbearing. Therefore Sarah laughed to herself as she thought, After I am waxed old will I have pleasure, my Lord being old also. And the Lord said to Abraham, Why did Sarah laugh and say, Will I surely have a child now that I am old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son. Vayera. Second reading. Isaac. Gevurah. Then Sarah denied this, for she was afraid, saying, I did not laugh. And he said, Yes, you did laugh. And the men rose to leave. They looked down towards Sodom, and Abraham went with them to see them on their way. And the Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? Seeing that Abraham will surely become a great and mighty nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they will keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just. That the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has spoken to him. And the Lord said, Because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and their sin so grievous, I will go down now and see if what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has come to me, and if not, I will know. And the men turned their faces away and went towards Sodom. But Abraham remained standing before the Lord. And Abraham drew near and said, Will you destroy the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really destroy it, and not spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous people in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and treating the righteous as if they are wicked. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right? And the Lord said, If I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake. And Abraham answered, See now that I have taken upon me to speak to the Lord, though I am nothing but dust and ashes. What if the number of the righteous is 5 less than 50? Will you destroy the whole city because of 5 people? And he said, If I find 45 there, I will not destroy it. And he spoke to him yet again and said, What if only 40 are found there? And he said, I will not do it for the sake of 40. And he said to him, Oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. What if only 30 can be found there? And he answered, I will not do it if I find 30 there. And he said, See now that I have taken upon me to speak to the Lord. What if only 20 can be found there? And he said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 20. And he said, Let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet just this once. What if only 10 can be found there? And he answered, I will not destroy it for the sake of 10. And the Lord went his way once he finished speaking with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Vayera, third reading, Jacob, Tiferet. And 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot sat on the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose to meet them, and bowed down with his face towards the ground. And he said, See now, my lords, turn aside, I pray you, to your servant's house, and tarry all night. And wash your feet, and then go on your way early in the morning. And they said, No, we will spend the night in the street. And he pressed upon them greatly, that they did go with him, and entered his house. And he made them a feast, and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. But before they had gone to bed, the men of the city of Sodom surrounded the house, both young and old, all the people from every quarter. And they called to Lot and said to him, Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us that we may know them. And Lot went outside to meet them, and shut the door behind him, and said, I pray you, brothers, do not do this wicked thing. See now, I have 2 daughters who have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out to you, and you can do to them what is good in your eyes. But to these men do nothing, for they have come under the shadow of my roof. And they said, Stand back. And they said, This one fellow came here to sojourn, and now he wants to be a judge. Now we will treat you worse than them. They kept pressing against the man Lot, and moved near to break the door. But the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. And they smote the men who were at the door of the house, both great and small, with blindness, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. And the men said to Lot, Do you have anyone else here, sons-in-law, sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of this place, for we are going to destroy this place, because the outcry of them is waxen great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law who married his daughters, and said, Hurry and get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy this city. But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. And when the morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, Arise, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and of his 2 daughters, and led them safely out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to them. And it came to pass, when they had brought them out, that he said, Flee for your life, do not look back, and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Escape to the mountains, or you will be swept away. And Lot said to them, No, my lords, please. See now, your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown great kindness to me in saving my life. But I can't flee to the mountains, lest some evil take me and I die. Look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? And my soul will live. Vayera, fourth reading, Moses, Netzach. And he said to him, Very well, I will grant this request too. I will not overthrow the city you speak of, but flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it. That is why the city was called Zoar. By the time Lot reached Zoar, the sun had risen over the land. Then the Lord rained down brimstone and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah, from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, including all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham got up early in the morning, and returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord. And he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the plain, and he saw smoke rising from the country, like smoke from a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham, and he sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot had dwelt. And Lot and his 2 daughters left Zoar and dwelt in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar. He and his 2 daughters dwelt in a cave. And the firstborn daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man on earth to come lie with us, as is the manner all over the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve the seed of our father." And they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father. And he was not aware of when she lay down or when she got up. And it came to pass on the next day, the firstborn said to the younger, "See, last night I lay with my father. Let us make him drink wine again tonight. And you go in and lie with him, so we can preserve the seed of our father." And they made their father to drink wine that night also. And the younger daughter went and lay with him, and he was not aware of when she lay down or when she got up. Thus both of Lot's daughters were with child by their father. And the firstborn had a son, and she named him Moab. He is the father of all the Moabites unto this day. The younger daughter also had a son, and she named him Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites unto this day. And Abraham journeyed from there toward the south country, and for a while stayed in Gerar, before dwelling between Kadesh and Shur. And Abraham said of his wife Sarah, "She is my sister." Then Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream one night and said to him, "Behold, you are a dead man, for the woman you have taken, she is a man's wife." But Abimelech had not gone near her, so he said, "Lord, will you slay an innocent nation? Did he not say to me, 'She is my sister'? And she even said, 'He is my brother.' In the integrity of my heart and innocence of my hand I have done this." And God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know you did this with integrity in your heart, and so I have kept you from sinning against me. That is why I did not let you touch her. Now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you and you will live. But if you do not return her, you may be sure that you and all that is yours will die." Therefore Abimelech rose early in the morning and summoned all his servants. And when he told them all that had happened, they were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said, "What have you done to us? How have I offended you that you have brought such great sin upon me and my kingdom? You have done things to me that should not be done." And Abimelech asked Abraham, "What was your reason for doing this?" Abraham replied, "Because I thought that there surely is no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she is indeed my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And it came to pass, when God caused me to wander from my father's household, that I said to her, 'This is how you can show your love to me. Everywhere we go, say of me, he is my brother.'" And Abimelech brought sheep and oxen and men servants and women servants, and gave them to Abraham, and he returned Sarah his wife to him. And Abimelech said, "See, my land is before you, live wherever you like." And to Sarah he said, "See, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. This is to cover the offense against you before all who are with you. You are completely reproved." So Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his maidservants, so that they could bear children. For the Lord had closed up every womb in Abimelech's household because of Abraham's wife, Sarah. And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. For Sarah conceived and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. And Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God commanded him. Vayera, fifth reading, Aaron, Hod. And Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. And Sarah said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears will laugh with me. And she said, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? For I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned. And Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son that Hagar the Egyptian had borne to Abraham was mocking. And she said to Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman will not be heir with my son, with Isaac. And the thing distressed Abraham greatly, because it concerned his son. And God said to Abraham, do not be so distressed about the boy and your bondwoman. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that your seed will be called. And also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is your seed. And Abraham rose early the next morning, and took bread and a bottle of water, and gave them to Hagar, putting them on her shoulders, and then sent her away with the boy. And she wandered in the wilderness of Beer-sheba. And when the water in the bottle was gone, she put the boy under one of the bushes, and she went a good way off and sat down, about a bowshot away. For she said, let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him, and lifted her voice, and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad. And the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven, and said to her, what is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the lad crying as he lies there. Arise, lift the lad up, and take him by the hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the bottle with water, and gave the lad to drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. While he was living in the desert of Paran, his mother got a wife for him from Egypt. Vayera, sixth reading, Joseph, Yesod. And it came to pass at that time that Abimelech and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, spoke to Abraham, saying, God is with you in all that you do. Now swear to me here before God that you will not deal falsely with me, or with my son, or with my son's son. But according to the kindness that I have shown you, you will do to me and to the land where you have sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech about a well of water that Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. And Abimelech said, I don't know who has done this. You did not tell me, and I heard about it only today. And Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them to Abimelech, and both of them made a covenant, treaty. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs from the flock by themselves. And Abimelech asked Abraham, what is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs you have set by themselves? And he replied, accept these 7 lambs from my hand as a witness that I dug this well. So he called that place Beer-sheba, because there they both swore an oath. After the treaty had been made at Beer-sheba, Abimelech and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, returned to the land of the Philistines. And Abraham planted a grove in Beer-sheba, and there he called upon the name of the Lord. the eternal God. And Abraham stayed in the land of the Philistines for many days. Vayera, seventh reading, David, Malchut. And it came to pass after these things that God tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, and he replied, Here I am. And God said, Take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains that I will tell you. And Abraham rose early in the morning, and saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his servants with him, and his son Isaac, and cut the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went to the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place in the distance. And Abraham said to his servants, Stay here with the donkey, while I and the boy go over there and worship, and then we will come back to you. And Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering, and placed it on his son Isaac. And he himself carried the fire and the knife, and they went on together. And Isaac spoke to his father Abraham, and said, My father. And he replied, Yes, my son. And he said, See, the fire and wood are here, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? And Abraham answered, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. So they went on together, and they reached the place God had told him about. And Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood on it. And he bound Isaac, his son, and laid him on the altar, on top of the wood. And Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham. And he replied, Here I am. And he said, Do not lay a hand on the boy. Do not do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and there in a thicket behind him he saw a ram caught by its horns. And Abraham went and took the ram, and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called that place Adonai Yireh, as it is said to this day, On the mountain of the Lord it will be seen. And the angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven a second time, and said, By myself I have sworn, said the Lord, that because you have done this thing and have not withheld your son, your only son, that in blessing I will bless you, and I will multiply your seed as numerous as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand on the seashore. And your seed will possess the gates of his enemies, and through your seed will all nations on earth be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned to his servants, and they rose and went together to Beer-sheba, and Abraham dwelt in Beer-sheba. Vayera, maftir. And it came to pass after these things that it was told Abraham, saying, See, Milcah is also a mother. She has borne children to your brother Nahor, Hutz, the firstborn, and Buz, his brother, and Kemuel, the father of Aram, and Chesed, and Hazo, and Pildash, and Yidlaf, and Bethuel. And Bethuel became the father of Rebekah. Milcah bore these 8 sons to Abraham's brother Nahor, and his concubine, whose name was Reumah, also had Tebach, and Gacham, and Tachash, and Ma'achah. Haftarah of Vayera, 2 Kings 4, 1-23. The wife of a man from the company of the prophets cried out to Elisha, Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that he revered the Lord. But now his creditor is coming to take my 2 boys as his slaves. Elisha replied to her, How can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house? Your servant has nothing there at all, she replied. except a little oil. Elisha said, "Go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour oil into all the jars, and as each is filled, put it to one side." She left him, and afterwards shut the door behind her and her sons. They brought the jars to her, and she kept pouring. When all the jars were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another one." But he replied, "There is not a jar left." Then the oil stopped flowing. She went and told the man of God, and he said, "Go, sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left." One day Elisha went to Shunem, and a well-to-do woman was there, who urged him to stay for a meal. So whenever he came by, he stopped there to eat. She said to her husband, "I know that this man who often comes our way is a holy man of God. Let's make a small room on the roof and put in it a bed and a table, a chair and a lamp for him. Then he can stay there whenever he comes to us." One day when Elisha came, he went up to his room and lay down there. He said to his servant Gehazi, "Call the Shunammite." So he called her, and she stood before him. Elisha said to him, "Tell her, you have gone to all this trouble for us. Now what can be done for you? Can we speak on your behalf to the king or the commander of the army?" She replied, "I have a home among my own people." "What can be done for her?" Elisha asked. Gehazi said, "Well, she has no son, and her husband is old." Then Elisha said, "Call her." So he called her, and she stood in the doorway. "About this time next year," Elisha said, "you will hold a son in your arms." "No, my lord," she objected. "Don't mislead your servant, man of God." But the woman became pregnant, and the next year about that same time she gave birth to a son, just as Elisha had told her. The child grew, and one day he went out to his father, who was with the reapers. My head," he said to his father. His father told a servant, "Carry him to his mother." After the servant had lifted him up and carried him to his mother, the boy sat on her lap until noon, and then he died. She went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, then shut the door and went out. She called her husband and said, "Please send me one of the servants and a donkey, so I can go to the man of God quickly and return." "Why go to him today?" he asked. "It's not the new moon or the Sabbath." "It's all right," she said.